Yeah, there was supposed to be sound. I guess that's a complete fail. I forgot that I had muted it last night. So, oh well. Basically what I said outside while I was putting things on the grill was that I'm going to rotisserie a standing rib roast tonight. I already had it skewered. I had set the barbecue up for indirect cooking, and I only have the flame set up on one side so that it kind of gets a minimal amount of heat out there. I'm kind of looking to cook that thing fairly slow. I have about 2.5 hours until dinner at this point, so there's no need to be in a real rush. To go with it tonight, I'm going to make some potato gratin and some sauteed mushrooms. So I figure while that's rotisserieing out there... Oh, the other thing that I had done to the roast already was that I made a wet rub for it. Wet rub, I wrote it down as I was putting everything in there, had rosemary, ground fennel seed, garlic powder, onion powder, kosher salt, black pepper, and some olive oil. And then you just take that wet rub, you mix it up real well, and then rub it all over the outside of the roast. I'll go ahead and put the exact recipe as I wrote it down up on the website, jasonsplate.com. How are you tonight, Keldrama? Anyway, while we're getting things going here, and after the great camera quake as I moved everything in here, we'll go ahead and get some potatoes cut up. Oh, and a few other things going. So, I'm just going to go ahead and get all the ingredients prepared for my potatoes. I have some Applewood smoked Gruyere cheese, kosher salt, which I'm actually a little bit low on in my cellar, so I'm going to top that off real quick. Let's see. Black pepper, salt. The other thing I'm going to grab is nutmeg, which I'll need my microplane zester for. I don't know how many potatoes it's going to take, but we'll grab a handful of them out of here to start with. Maybe 4 or 5. And then we'll grab more if we need them as we go. So I guess the best place to start right now would be to go ahead and get this cheese shredded. Normally I would do all the prep ahead of time, but since that roast has quite a while to cook, I figured I could just do the entire thing while we were letting that cook. And then maybe at the end we can go out and check on it, and then we'll finish up the live stream for tonight, and I can just post the final pictures on the website, jasonsplate.com, if you missed it. I'm sure I'll mention that about a dozen more times. So we're making short work of this cheese. Although it is always easy to cheat and use a food processor as well, if you have one and so desire. I don't usually feel like dragging mine out for just that small half-pound block of cheese, since it goes pretty quick on the shredding department. Alright, cheese is shredded, so we'll set that aside. Oh! Hey SD, how's it going? Yeah, it's been about 2 or 3 weeks, but a couple of the weeks were pretty slow. So, I'm going to go ahead and wash up some potatoes. And, you know, you can peel the potatoes for this if you want. I don't really see a reason to. I kind of like the skins in there. It gives it a little bit of color. And a little bit of minor variation in texture. Even if it is just brown against white. I'm using russet potatoes. They seem to usually work as the best general all-purpose potato. And you can usually buy a 10-pound bag pretty darn cheap, so I keep a big bag on me. Alright, so we'll just run one of these through the mandolin. Once you get kind of down close, I like to use the hand guard on the mandolin. And then I'll usually set the ends aside, because I don't really have too much use for those. And then I figured, you know, we can just start building this as we go. So we're just going to lay down a layer of potatoes here, pretty thin. And this will also let me gauge if I need to wash a couple more potatoes as we're going. So you just kind of want to make sure that you have a thin layer of potatoes all along the bottom. There can be a little bit of space if you want, but try to keep as little space between them as you can. I don't know if you move this over where it can be seen a little bit better. Okay, so one potato wasn't quite enough. If you can keep a grip on the potato, it helps. I guess I should be on the safe side and say always use the hand guard no matter what, but to be honest, I think it's actually more dangerous with it right at the beginning. So, alright, that looks like a good bottom layer there. So, what I'm going to do is sprinkle just a little bit of salt. A little bit of ground pepper. And grate just a little bit of fresh nutmeg. The nutmeg really makes the cheese stand out. And then I'll put just a little bit of cheese on this layer. I mean, it's almost like building a lasagna. Alright, and then we go on to the next layer. And when we get to the end of all this, we're going to top it all with a heavy cream to bring it all together and let the starch from the potatoes act as a thickener. Yeah, we do need to improve the audio. Definitely. Let me catch up here. Alright, enjoy the grilling, SD. Alright, enjoy washing your mulch. I'll be here cooking. And I'll probably keep talking to myself while you're gone, because I figure the YouTube people are going to want to, well, okay, that's assuming that anybody ever watches any of this, which somehow I don't really see happening. Alright, next layer, we're going to sprinkle the salt on, add the pepper, a little bit of nutmeg, a little bit of cheese. And you can go pretty light on the cheese on these layers. You just want to make sure you have some left to sprinkle on the top, because that gives it that nice kind of gooey, melty top. So we'll go ahead and start our next layer of potatoes. And just lay them out there. Get it as well covered as you can. If the ends start to sink in a little bit, just put an extra potato over there. Doesn't hurt anything. Doesn't have to be perfect. This particular process is definitely not something that screams for perfection. Lay out the next layer of potatoes here. You know, while I'm doing this, I think I'm going to go ahead and get the oven turned on. So I'm just going to set it to 350. I can do the salt for that layer. Pepper. Nutmeg, a little bit of cheese, and it looks like I'll have enough here for one more layer. So I'll go ahead and start laying out the potatoes, and it looks like I'm going to need one more potato. Alright. As always, using the hand guard at the end. And we'll go ahead and spread the rest of these potatoes out. And look, if you really want to take the time to make sure that all the potatoes are the same size and that they're in some type of fancy pattern, you certainly can. but who has time for that? I just want to make it taste good and eat it. Alright, we got full coverage with our potatoes there. That potato turned out to be the perfect amount. So we'll go ahead with the last bit of salt here. And you don't want to go too heavy on the salt, just a nice heavy, probably a medium pinch each layer, because the cheese has salt in it as well. So if you go too heavy, it'll be over salted. The pepper, nutmeg, and you can use nutmeg powder, but honestly, fresh ground nutmeg is so much better that I don't even keep ground nutmeg in my house anymore. I just have the whole nutmegs in my microplane. Alright, so now we'll just take the rest of this cheese and just kind of sprinkle it evenly over the top. Don't want to miss any of that. It's good stuff. Alright, so the last of the cheese is on there. We're going to go ahead and top this with some cream. Now I expect it to take about a cup of cream, but I usually buy a pint just to be on the safe side. It could take more or less, but you're kind of looking for a visual more than a measurement on this one. Nutmeg away here. Yeah, it's not a cooking show where I have assistants, that's for sure. Basically, I'm going to pour this around the edges. And because I don't want to wash all the good stuff in the middle away. And when I can kind of see some of it over here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to press down. You're going to bring some of the stuff with you, but it'll be worth it. You won't notice it after it's all done. You want to kind of see some of it squishing up and around. I'm going to run just a drizzle across the middle to keep it all liquidy here. Alright, so this ended up actually using a little more than a cup, probably a cup and a half out of that one. But I can see when I press down, I can see liquid kind of squeezing up just a little bit. You don't want much, but you want to just see little places where it pops up. And that's it for making the gratin. So I'm going to wash my hands. And then as soon as the oven is ready, we can go ahead and put that in. So I'm going to go ahead and move this over to the stove and clean up my mess. If this were a real cooking show, there would be less of a mess and somebody else would clean it up. But it's just some dude cooking in his kitchen. Alright. Bear with me while I get this put away. I'm going to use the cutting board again, since it's only had potato on it, to cut up the mushrooms. On the recipe for this gratin, I have to give credit to Alton Brown, who is where I originally learned to make them. I learned quite a bit from his shows and his books, so I'll go ahead and give him some credit where credit is due. But I certainly wouldn't be as good at this as I am today, which isn't saying much, without him around. Alright, all clean again. Now it's time to wash some mushrooms. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a colander out of here. Just going to wipe some of the residue off of this cutting board. That means the oven is warm. So I'm going to go ahead and put this gratin in at 350 degrees. It should take about maybe 45 minutes to an hour to cook. Looks like I made a minor mess. Easily cleaned up. Is there a timer on this that tells me how long I've been streaming? Oh, look, almost a half hour. Wow, if you're still watching this, you're a trooper. Alright. Gonna go ahead and clean some mushrooms here. Clean them. I'm just gonna set them over there on my freshly cleaned counter. I'm just mostly looking for any chunks on the outside of them. I know there's some people that don't like washing mushrooms and they'd rather use one of those light brushes, but the way I'm cooking them tonight, it's not going to matter at all. These are just going to be, I think they're kind of going to be sauteed, I guess, in their own juices, so maybe somewhere between a saute and a braise. If you want mushrooms crispy, which I'm not going for tonight, then you want to saute them in really small batches. But since I'm just mostly going for flavor and texture and not really looking for that crispy outside, that doesn't matter nearly as much. I suppose I should keep talking while I'm cleaning these, but I don't know how much more I can really say about cleaning mushrooms. It's been a beautiful weekend here, though, in western Colorado. Got in a good bike ride yesterday. It's been a great spring for hiking and biking this year. Perfect weather, the rain hasn't been too bad. Honestly, a great time of year to be here. Alright, 20 mushrooms ready to be quartered. Grab a bowl to put them in. Grab a knife to quarter them with. Set quartering. out of the way, obviously. But I'll be a little bit more deliberate about this since I'm doing it on a live stream. It's not very pretty sometimes when I hurry, but I think it would probably be bad if I accidentally cut myself tonight. Not that that ever happens, mind you. Really. Well, this one's exceptionally big, so I'm going to cut it into 6. These are cremini mushrooms, but really the standard button mushrooms will work just as well with what I'm doing. If either of them are on sale, go with that one. There's not a dramatic flavor difference. Not like some of the fancier mushrooms, the chanterelles and oysters and such. Amazing mushrooms. All right, so those mushrooms are quartered. I'm going to go ahead and dry off my counter here. And I'll save my spice blend so I can write it up on the website in a little while. Get that out of the way. One of the tricks I picked up a while back, if you don't want your cutting board to slide around, you just put a wet paper towel underneath it. It's a lot sturdier than if you just have it on the ground. So there's a trick. If your cutting board slides around a lot, that's one way to deal with it. Welcome back, Keldroma. So I have all my mushrooms quartered. Mushrooms absolutely love black pepper and salt. Another thing they really love is Worcester sauce. So what I'm going to do is drizzle just a little bit of this on there. Sprinkle just a tiny bit of salt because the Worcester has some salt in it, so you don't want to make them too salty. Up on some black pepper. And then I'm going to drizzle these in a little bit of grapeseed oil. It's a good high temperature cooking oil with a pretty neutral flavor. Has a good high smoke point. Uh-oh. That's a good question, Kel. Almost any kind of cheeses, the milder cheeses, the Swiss, Gruyere, any of the soft cheeses, Brie, Gouda, anything like that is really going to be helped by nutmeg. The sharper cheeses like cheddar, not quite as much. You won't really notice it because they're so strong. Any of the milder flavored cheeses, though, will really be brought out by the nutmeg. Stir this around to get all those salt and pepper and Worcester evenly coated on these. And then we're just going to let that sit for a little while and marinate a little bit. And then we can adjust spices on that as we're cooking too. So quite literally at this point, most of what there is, let's see. Yeah, give it a try. Nutmeg and American cheese is really good together. but a grilled cheese sandwich with a smoked Gouda or even this Gruyere that I was using here is really good as well. And then the pinch of nutmeg will help. Do it. Try it. See what happens. What's the worst that could happen? Well, I mean, the kids won't like it, but you probably would. Alright, I'm going to go grab a pan to cook mushrooms in. The one I want is in here. Alright. Yeah, that is pretty much the worst thing that could happen with making the food. Although, on the plus side, then you could eat it. I mean, the kids might starve, but at least you'd be hungry. You would be satisfied. Let's see, I have about an hour before I expect that roast to need to come off the grill. We can go ahead and get these mushrooms started. I'm going to turn the heat on to medium. Drizzle just a little bit more of the grapeseed oil in there. And we'll let that come up to temperature for a few minutes here. The beautiful thing with everything that I'm making tonight is none of it really has to be served immediately. You can prepare it with an hour to spare if you want at the end. Keep your times flexible. But I expect the potatoes to be ready in about another half hour, 45 minutes here. The mushrooms will probably take about a half hour to cook. And when we go out in a little bit here and we'll check on the roast, I'm betting it'll be about halfway done. We can top up the charcoal a little bit, and I expect it to be done probably in about an hour and a half. But the nice thing is the mushrooms and the potatoes will sit just fine. Just, toss some foil on top of the potatoes and put a lid on the mushrooms once you turn the heat off, and they'll keep really well until dinner time. In the meantime, since this isn't a real cooking show, I go ahead and clean up some of my space here. Nobody else will do it for me. Oh, don't be a mushroom hater. Mushrooms are delicious and healthy. These aren't going to take very long to soak as much of that Worcester sauce and spices in as they can. So, that's excellent. I'll have to see if I can get the recipe from her. She told me about the dryer thing. She was really excited about that. So we need to take a moment to talk about rib roasts. If you're one of those people that doesn't like meat that's not well done, you're not going to like prime rib. You really want to cook that to about, I'd say medium at the farthest. Otherwise, it gets really chewy and tough, and that's just kind of gross. So today we're going to be shooting for medium on it, which, according to my handy dandy meat thermometer, is going to be about 145. So I might shoot for 150 just because my dinner guest tonight doesn't like rare meat. So we'll shoot for a medium, a little bit over medium, just for her. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and add these mushrooms in and just kind of let them start sauteing. Oh, yeah, no, a well-done rib roast it's a crime. It really is. I mean, there really should be jail time involved. Personally, if it's just me cooking it for me or the right audience, I'll cook it to medium rare. But I think I've mentioned on my website before that with any kind of pork, beef, chicken, having a couple of thermometers is just a must. I have a couple different kinds. I have the instant read that I can just use on the spot, and then I also have one of these which will let me stick a probe into the meat and set an alarm for when it's ready. I know that roast is going to take an hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that to cook, to get up to temperature. So I'm not really too worried about it, but I'm always going to check the temperature just to be on the safe side anyway. Now I agree with you, Cal. That's rare is better. The rarer the better on a rib roast, but you got to make a few adjustments for other people's taste sometimes. Here, I bet I can turn this on and make that look a little nicer. There we go. Like I say, with these mushrooms, I'm just kind of trying to soften them up, kind of keep them in here. They're going to end up making a lot of liquid because of the salt on them, and that's okay. I'll just kind of let them braise in that liquid. It'll be a really flavorful cooking liquid. Well, I guess it's time for some more food, huh? Alright, those can just sit and relax for now. The gratin's coming along nicely. Put everything away. A bowl of cereal rarely does. Gotta get some protein going. That'll help. So when I go out and check on the roast in a little while, I'll take my instant read thermometer with me, see where it's at. Oh, sweet and sour pork, good call. See where the temperature's at, and I know about how long it's been on, and I know about the temperature it started at, so I can gauge roughly how much longer it's going to take just by doing some quick math. So if it's been out there for an hour and it's increased in temperature by 50 degrees, you know, it's about 50 degrees an hour, it's a little bit less than a degree a minute, and that way you kind of can gauge, well, if I have 45 degrees to go, it's going to take me about 35 to 45 minutes, so it's not an exact science, but it'll give you a rough guess. Alright, these mushrooms are starting to release some juice here. And since we're going to kind of braise them in their own juice, I'm going to drop the temperature here to low. And I'm going to put a lid on it. Close up the steam vent. And that's really all there is to it for putting together a rib roast, potato gratin, and some mushrooms. I mean, we're talking what? I've been streaming for about 50 minutes so far, and it's probably an hour and a half worth of work to put together a meal like this. So, not bad at all. At this point, most of it's just a waiting game. We'll go out in a little bit and we'll check on that roast. Yeah, go do that. So we'll keep the stream up for another little bit here, just until the mushrooms are getting a little bit closer. Maybe when I pull the gratin out of the oven. It's looking real good. I can see it starting to bubble up the sides a bit, and well, here, I bet I can move this over so you can peek in there too. Some things it's a really bad idea to peek in the oven on, but these aren't as big of a deal. We'll lower this camera down a bit. So yeah, they're starting to bubble away. The cheese is melting a little bit. The potatoes are settling down into the cream. So it'll all kind of meld together in the oven. I guess the other thing of interest over on this side is that it turns out my microwave had slots that were set just perfectly for me to be able to put that camera set up right above the stove. So. There's my water. Here. Keeping a clean work area is very important whenever you're cooking, especially if you have limited space like I do. Making the most of the space you have is what's important. Check on these mushrooms. Ah, yeah. They released a lot of liquid now, and they're braising nicely in it. So those can really just sit almost as low as your stove can go, and be perfect. In fact, I'm going to turn it all the way down to low on mine. What, the keeping the area clean? It just makes things a lot more efficient when you're actually working in the kitchen. If you can clean as you go, that means you don't have to do it at the end. And I guess for anybody that's watching this on YouTube in the future, Keldrama there, who's typing on the right-hand side, is somewhat related to me in that he married my sister for some reason. Yeah, well, you know. Like mother, like son, I guess. One thing I probably should do, sorry for the close-up, is get my laptop a little electricity here. Yes, somewhat. I don't like to claim you completely. Alright, we're going to try to avoid another close-up here. There we go. Alright. Yeah, those are coming along nicely. They're basically done at this point, but we'll just kind of leave them to warm. Just keep them warm on the stovetop, and that way they'll just be ready when dinner's ready. The potatoes are good. Everything's going well there. Not really sure what else I can burn some time with. I guess maybe I can get some wine chilling for tonight. I think probably we're going to go with a local wine tonight. The Carlson Vineyards T-Rex Red. Because why wouldn't you? But I'll go ahead and chill a Truro Cranberry Red as well. Bottled on Cape Cod. So I'm not a wine connoisseur, but I do know that you want to serve a red wine around 60 degrees, 55, 60 degrees-ish, and a white wine usually chilled. Yeah, it's even in the shape of the lighthouse. Apparently you can buy it at the lighthouse out on the very tip of Cape Cod. Seems like a pretty cool place to go. Alright, now I have to just burn up another 15 minutes, and then we can go check on that roast, and then I think we'll be done with the live stream. And what I'll do is I'll post some pictures of the final products later on. Well, there you go. That's right, you're from that area. Actually, yeah, your family lives in Cape Cod, don't they? Let's see. So the rest of the thing with the roasts, basically, when it's done, I'll pull it off, and I'm just going to let it rest for a half an hour. Just put it on a plate, cover it in some foil, and set it aside. And what you'll end up with is a nice, crusted prime rib roast, or standing rib roast, or rib roast, whatever you want to call it. And then that'll be served with the gratin, which once it comes out of here, it needs to sit at least 15-20 minutes just to set up. The starches in the potato will mix with the cream and the cheese, and it'll form a sauce that'll thicken as it stands. When you first pull it out, it'll be a little bit liquidy, and you just want to let it sit for a few minutes. Even up to a half hour, 45 minutes, that'll be fine. My dinner guest is going to be here in about an hour and a half, so I have plenty of time to get things ready before then. let's see, what else is there to cover? Like I say, the mushrooms can just be kept warm just exactly as they are. They're pretty much done right now. I have my stove set on keep warm, and they can just sit in their liquid and stay warm. Other ways to work with the mushrooms, if you leave them uncovered and add about a cup and a half of white wine and let that cook down a bit, let some of the alcohol cook off, that'll give you basically the exact same thing we did here with a nice amount of liquid on it. But instead of the white wine, I just let them cook in their own juices. And it just kind of depends on what you're going for. So if they're cooked in white wine, you'll get a little bit of that citrus flavor and a little bit of bite and even a little bit of spice to them from that. Even once it's cooked down, also some additional sweetness. There's really nothing in there that's going to bring out any sweetness in them. Nutmeg is also really good on mushrooms. I didn't add any tonight, but it's excellent to add to mushrooms. So even with just this recipe, if you wanted to grate some fresh nutmeg in there, it would be excellent. Potatoes are coming along really well. None of it's really all that difficult. You just kind of got to keep an eye on it. I'm probably bad in that I don't usually set timers on anything. Unless it's... When I'm baking, I'm a lot more precise, a lot more exact about how I do everything. But just in cooking, I don't usually set timers. I just keep an eye on it or use a temperature probe to check the temperature. Or, I'll use a knife to check the tenderness of these potatoes when they're getting close to done. When they start looking done, I'll just poke them with a knife a couple of times. And they're just cooking away at 350. I can't really think of anything I didn't cover. Let's see. Alright. Well, I guess it's about time to go ahead and move outside and we can talk a little bit more about the roast. So we're going to get ready for another camera quake here. So those of you who are seasick, avert your eyes. Here we go. The journey begins. Oh, and look at that. Nobody bothered to clean up my plate while I was in there. Oh, I guess I'll just have to do it. Dang it. Okay, well, welcome back to the backyard. We got the dual camera going on up here. Aim that one way at the sky. So that way if there's anything that flies by, you'll be able to see it. Alright, I'm going to run inside and go grab my thermometer, because since I couldn't get that in my hands, I'll be right back. I made it back. I've got my thermometer. So we can go ahead and check on this roast now. Yes, string is not holding together very well, so I may go ahead and tighten that up here. But let's check the temperature on this roast. It's pretty low still. And while that's happening, we'll go ahead and top up the charcoal here. So I actually ran out of the mesquite briquettes, so we're just going to put a few of these hardwood lumps on here. It'll bring up the temperature a little bit, but that's okay. Our meat is about 78 degrees right now. It started about 40, so we've gone up 30 degrees. So we'll just go ahead and let that keep going. Let me go grab some string. I'll be right back. Alright, so I just want to go ahead and tighten this roast up a little bit. As you can see it okay. I'm going to swing the string underneath here. And I'm going to double loop it through. Start with a surgeon's knot here. And then I'll add a second tie just to keep it tight. And I'm going to do that again just to keep it really nice and tight here. It smells really good out here. Alright. That should help keep things together. We'll go ahead and pop this back on. And I think I'd like to actually boost this heat here a little bit. So I'll add a little bit more of this charcoal. I'm going to give this a shake just to kind of knock some of the ash out of it. You don't want to do it too much because it'll blow the ash up onto the roast, but you just want to get some of the airflow back underneath it there, and that'll get the charcoal going quickly. And I think I have some mesquite chunks down here. I'm going to throw a couple of these on here too, just to see if I can get a little bit of smoke going to give it a little extra flavor. Alright. We'll go ahead and top that back up. You go throw this cut string away. You can see there's a thermometer on the outside of my grill. It's not super accurate, but it does okay. I'd say this grill is probably running about 300 to 400 degrees, 300 to 350 degrees right now. Yeah, it's coming together. I really like cooking rib roasts in the oven, but on the grill is something special on its own. So we'll just let it keep on spinning away here on the spit. Alright. Well, I guess there's not really too much more that I can burn up time with, so I will be posting pictures of all of the completed products, as well as... Yes it does. As well as all the recipes and a few pictures as the process goes through. Although since a lot of that was done on video, I didn't take any pictures, like I'm about to right now. So that picture will be up there. But all of that will be posted on jasonsplate.com. American Airlines is landing. Yeah, the mesquite chunks are going to make it awesome. Just give it that little bit of extra smoky flavor out here. But this video will be posted to YouTube. Everything else will be set up on jasonsplate.com, and I think at that I'm going to go ahead and end the stream, because really right now it's just kind of sitting around. Unless you have anything else to say. Caldrama 311. I didn't think so. Alright, have a good night. Happy cooking. And any questions you have, leave in the comments on the YouTube page or on the website or at Twitch. There's a million ways to get a hold of me. Have a good night.